This is Hoops Forum, a production of Radius Athletics and a Quick Timeout podcast. I'm Tony Miller, and I'm joined once again this week by my co-host Randy Sherman. Before we get things going here, thanks to our sponsors over at 323 Sports. Summer camp season is right around the corner, and if you're in need of camp t-shirts, basketballs, other equipment, whatever it is, 323 Sports has what you need at great prices. I've used them for years with my summer camps, and they've done a fantastic job. You won't regret using these guys. To find out more about what they can do for your programs, visit 323sports.com, or you can contact a sales rep at sales@323sports.com. They'll be sure to do it right for your summer camp. This is another episode where we deep dive into some X's and O's. Today, we're going to talk about split cuts on post feeds. Those of you that are watching can see that there up on the screen. We've got some diagrams, some fast draw things that we'll be putting up there, and also some videos for you. So if you're listening to this, be sure to go and check out the video version of it. We'll direct you to that at the end of the episode. Randy, I feel like we were talking about beforehand. I feel like maybe this is something that we've talked about, but I think we've just in passing kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's becoming more and more popular, but again, that may just be because my team uses split cuts and we're doing some things, not all the things that we're going to be talking about today. I may steal some of these things, but maybe it's just NBA season. Do you feel like this is something that teams maybe are incorporating a little bit more?
I think a couple prominent teams use them pretty often. You know, the Golden State Warriors use a lot of post splits, or have in years past, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson coming off of those have been pretty lethal, and with Draymond Green being a really good facilitator out of the post. Miami Heat also kind of use them quite a bit. So maybe it's just that a couple of the teams that are favored in the playoffs that we're all watching on TV every night kind of have either currently or historically used them. So maybe that's the reason your radar is going off on split cuts.
So let's go ahead and break them down at the beginning here, and then we can get into kind of some of the actions and things that you can do off of those.
Okay, sounds good. So you've got some diagrams, I think, that sort of let's look at the diagram first, and as the video sort of plays in a loop in the bottom right corner there. What I would say, a split cut, a post split for to be very specific to what we're going to talk about today, would be using the post position as a facilitating position, a passing position, and a three-player action where the player with the ball is the post, and then there's a screener and a cutter off the ball. The positioning that I have highlighted in the first frame, the three players in red, will be the players involved in kind of the post split action in all of videos and diagrams we'll look at today. Let's start with the post, how I want them to position. I've kind of got that yellow oval, if you will, like I would encourage you to think of the player getting the ball being more important than, say, where they get the ball. So possession more important than position. What you see, like at the NBA level, and you see Draymond Green there in the video that's looping in the bottom, he's sort of posting in that T-post position where his back's to the baseline. He's got his strong arm, an arm bar into his defender's chest, who he's perpendicular to, and a long arm out asking for the ball. And the feeder gives him the ball sort of off the lane line, not really like butt to the basket. A traditional post up, he's more perpendicular to his man in that T-post position. And if our pass to his outside hand sort of pulls him off the lane line even a little bit further, that's okay, because we just want to get him the ball so we can run the action. That's why I have that oval, that yellow oval in that diagram of doesn't have to be on the block or the first lane mark or whatever, just in that area, right? So second thing, let's move up the court. The feeder is who's ultimately going to be the screeners player. In this diagram, player 2 is the one who feeds the post. Again, throw it to that outside hand, even if it pulls them off the lane a little bit, throw it to it. You want to be in the NBA, they have the break where the straight line of the 3-point line breaks into the arced portion. It's most of these post feeds are above the break, free throw line extended. So that's our positioning. Player 3, the cutter, head on rim, just right in line with the rim, or on our way there. and kind of off the 3-point line, about midway between top of circle and half court line. And then when it goes in, like you see in frame 2, that's when we're going to run the split action. So you see that kind of playing on a loop over and over again in the video below. You see Durant above the break, throw it to Draymond, screening for Steph Curry. Like, that's three pretty good players. And I think what I would say for the cutter, you can watch how Steph, like how he sets up that cut after he knows it's coming. When Durant drops it in there, he walks into his man and eats up that space between him and his man, and that makes his defender easy to screen, to target for the split screen. So yeah, there's some just basics of the anatomy of a post split.
Going back to the popularity of this, I feel like maybe teams have shied away from this because the initial thought is we don't really have somebody that can post up and make a post move and score out of this. Or to the modern analytics, the points per possession have kind of gone down sometimes on the post feeds, and being able to have a dominant back to the basket player. And I don't have that on my high school team, so why would we even go to this? This is more of like setting up an action and generating space and all of the principles. It's kind of like we're just inverting the floor here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to play defense when the ball's kind of behind you and you want to head turn and dig down maybe, or you just sort of want to head turn and look at the ball when we make a penetrating like post entry. So that's one reason for the effectiveness. I'd say another would be, just like you said, the offense is upside down now, and that's just a little different. So good point.
So I guess that's my admonition to those that you don't have this in your offense and you haven't really thought about it because you don't have a post player. You don't feel like you have somebody. We put guards down there and throw the ball into guards and then let them make a play from an inverted floor there. So don't necessarily think that you have to have the traditional 5 in order to do something like this. Or we have a big guy, but he's not a post player, but they're not a very good passer. It doesn't have to be a post player that's down there on the block.
No, it doesn't. And also too, like it's a great way to combat double teams. Like if we're going to throw it in there and we just sort of don't move on the perimeter, or we're going to all the time be getting collapsed on. But if we run action, we keep those 2 defenders at least on that ball side of the court true to their check. They're not digging down as aggressively. If I get asked all the time, like, we feed the post, what should we do? This is an option for that,
And so some of the further options here, let's go ahead and start getting, what can you do once the ball goes into the post?
Yeah, so basically you can emphasize making contact with the defender or not. It can be more of like a meetup where 2 players just sort of come together and go divergent ways. Or we can emphasize making contact. But you'll see the theme as we progress through these options will be there's one of the players in the split is going to the rim and the other's kind of replacing that player back on the perimeter. So in this first option, we've got a slip by the screener. So 2 has already fed the post in the last frame. They've dropped it in there from above the break. 3, you see that part mark setup where you see like Steph Curry there doing a good job of like really like walking into his man, attacking the space between him and his man, so he's easy to screen. And then you've got the screener slipping to the rim. A lot of times there's a switch or like a lazy or point switch where there's a window of opportunity to sort of, I'll really date myself by using this phrase, but old Rick Majerus term 7 cut. That cut made by 2 looks like the number 7. He slips it to the rim and he 7 cuts through that sort of window of space where we're right at the mesh point where they want to switch. So a good way to combat switching would be to slip the post split. I can't emphasize enough how important, where you see player 3 in the diagram and Steph Curry in the video, setting up that player. And that this part where it says set up and that line that's pointed right at the rim before he goes into the cut toward the wing, attack that space. Steph Curry's so good at it. We're going to see some other players as well in this action of sort of like playing slow then fast, of sort of walking into him like, nothing's going on here, nothing to see, and then bursting into that cut off the screen by setting up the screen. And then the feeder, the passer, player 5, just sort of keeping that position where his outside of his body is free. He's listening to the ball with it near his ear, and he's got his butt to the baseline so he can see that split action, and keeping that vision, and that's important also.
Where we had the most success was this when we had one of our best shooters there in Curry spot, just like the Warriors are doing. They
Yeah.
draw so much attention that even if the defense is intent on switching or they just want to take that away, that's where you can usually get that slip to the front of the rim. And
Yeah.
then when we played teams that didn't switch, you really punished them because that guy was almost always open. And then even if they made the adjustment, it was typically to your slow to fast speed point.
Mm-hmm.
If you can kind of get them to be confused for just a second, it'll create just a little advantage that you can throw that little pocket pass in there and score. So
Yeah.
Even though teams, I think, knew that we were doing this, we would run this in our own practices. And throughout the year, if you run it correctly and set a good screen up there at the top and you have a shooter coming off of that, our guys who are used to doing this on offense and on defense, it's still, we were even at the end of the year scoring off of it in some of our scrimmages. So there are options, I guess, is the point. Like there are things that the defense has to, and they have to be engaged all of the time, and half of a second can kill you. So several scoring opportunities just off of this. If you didn't do anything else that we talked about and just did this, you would still see scoring opportunities. Probably
Yeah.
not when you have somebody like, who is that, Capella at the front of the rim. I know that's probably a
Well,
bad video that we picked out, but yeah,
he denies that, but
yeah,
maybe he got fouled.
yeah, possibly. All right,
Maybe there was
next
a
one
foul
here.
call. Yeah, so this would be, again, same thing. We've got the ball has been entered into 5 from above the break by the player on the wing, and we're going to split for the player at the top of the circle who sets up their cut. But in this time, they reject it. Maybe the defense is anticipating the cutter coming over the top like they do on Tyler Hero here. That you can see his defender sort of like anticipate that Hero's going to come to the wing, and maybe the screener's going to slip. But so he basically backdoors that overplay, and dives right to the front of the rim, and the pass is open late at the front of the rim. And again, with the, I think is it Bam in the post, maybe Dwayne Dedman, I can't tell. But yeah, same principle though. And then what we want to see, I think Kyle Lowry is the screener, sort of like pop back. So basically, we got that same principle of a player going to the rim and a player popping back. So that divergent action of one cutter to the rim, one to the perimeter, and the two players in the screener cutter action just react to one another. I slip, I reject, I do the opposite, And another thing we haven't talked about is the two players outside of the 3-player action, 1 and 4 in this diagram. They can either hold the sideline like we have in the diagrams, no interchange. But I think if you look over here against the Rockets, Oladipo and one of the Martin guys, they just sort of run in a simple exchange just to sort of move those two guys who are along the lane line there and help.
So this one's a perfect example of just kind of playing out of concepts. As the defense jumps it, then you just reject it and go back door, and then the screen
don't fight the defense, right? Like if they jump it, like don't burrow through his chest trying to go to the wing because the diagram says so. Just reject it. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the next level of the first one we just showed. So I feel like that would be a great, like if you're going to do any of these, maybe just stick with these two. But we have some good ones coming up too. I like these next ones that we have here.
Yeah,
so
these are basic, entry level, right?
Yeah. So next one here, step up. This one, I really like this one.
Okay, well, what happens next, right? So we run a split. We've twos entered it to 5 from above the break, 5 in T-post position, but to baseline. We set up the screen by player 3. We run in this diagram. We've slipped it, and 3 comes to the wing and gets the catch, but maybe not the shot. Maybe they effectively switched it, or they fought through it or slid under, but we got the catch, but not the shot. The show must go on. So 5 just goes right into a step-up ball screen. And then we get baseline drive. We got a player in the corner in the headlights. There's a great, or we hit the roller like in this clip here. The roller is who scores. So yeah, we step up and roll, and they throw it to the roller. Draymond. Perfect. Yeah. So again, it's like next, what's next? Next. So we run it, we enter the post, we run a split, we hit the wing. What is that? What does our shape and positioning afford us to do next? Well, I can step off the post and ball screen. 3 accepts the screen. He could get into baseline drive. I've got 2 in the headlights. We could hammer for 4. We could, all kinds of stuff. We could dive forward to the front of the rim if they help the helper, all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah.
The thing that I like about this and why it works is because when in this case, Barnes goes and sets the screen after the post entry, he dives, but then he clears to the weak side. And now you're creating a new low man that may not be necessarily, he may not know that he's help. And that's where you get the quick roll to the rim, and it's kind of late. And that's why Draymond ends up with a lightly contested layup there.
Yeah. So yeah, just be thinking of, okay, what we feed the post, then what? Post split. We hit the wing on the post split, then what? Step up.
All right, and then this last one is similar to that.
Okay, same thing. I won't run through the recap again, but we fed the post. We run a post split. We hit the wing. The wing enters it back into the post and then chases that pass for almost like the same thing. So there's the player coming off, and he gets it, and he just takes it. He just sort of stays on the move and takes that ball back from the post. Yeah.
He could, so instead of throwing it back to Green.
Yeah, you could get into a toss game, or 5 could still have it, right? 5 could still have it and not thrown it to the split action, and 3 just keep running and take it. I think that gets called grenade commonly, like a handoff out of the post. But same thing, we've got a guy in the headlights too in the corner there if we're able to penetrate to the baseline side. So same thing. Next. We feed the post. What's next? Post split. We throw it to the wing, but he doesn't shoot, and we get into throw and go. Or if I didn't throw it to the wing, he can just keep running and take it from me, like in the video.
And you can even keep that if the defense post defender tries to help on Green, then he can keep it, go to the middle of the floor and finish off of it.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah. So
those are that doesn't take a lot of time to teach your guys.
I don't think so. I think if we have sort of like a standard command, if you will, or a standard concept that we are going to execute when we enter the post.
Yeah.
We already know that. Like, we know if we throw it into the post from the wing, we're looking for a guy at the top of the key to split screen for. And you see that as a common concept in professional basketball, where guy feeds it into the post and just automatically goes and looks for the top of the key area, to the top of the circle area to screen for somebody. And then, what can we do next? If we throw it to him and he doesn't shoot it, we can step up. Yeah, I think it's important for coaches to sort of like think of playing out of concepts in terms of space, positions, shapes, and affordances, right? Like who's creating space, where are we positioned, where are our players positioned, and that creates our shape. And then what can we do naturally out of that shape? Well, if we've got a guy in the post and just threw it back out to him on the wing, I could go right into a step up off the pass, So yeah, so I think what maybe at lower levels of play that I would offer a word of caution, like to college, high school, secondary, whatever, is it seems like when we throw it into the player, into player 5 there in the post, like, man, it's got to be quick because the whole world collapses down on him or her really, really quickly. So that happens less often when you've got great shooting on the floor and they don't want to double down and things like that. So another obvious benefit to having great shooters is maybe you get more one-on-ones in the post. So, but I would say that if we can get to one of those basic post split options in lower levels of play, where we throw it into the post and we can run just like the slip or the reject or something like that. Like that's got to be quick hitting, immediate, and a fast decision by the post player. Otherwise, the world comes crashing down on that post player pretty quickly.
I will say that the thing that helps with that is if you start with good spacing, then you usually are setting yourself up for more success. If
Yeah.
your guys are cramped up on the 3-point line, especially at the high school level, then to your
Yeah.
point, it quickly becomes just a mesh of people in there and nothing really good happens from that.
Yeah. And
And then as far as practicing it, those of you who maybe are interested in doing this, something that helped for us, we would just go 3-on-3 to start with and just play out of that. And we only used the first 2 slides that we showed. So we
okay.
did just the reject. I don't even know if we did that very much. We actually went and found somebody and then slipped to the front of the rim. So we were probably doing the majority of our split cuts ended in a slip. And
Mm-hmm.
you very easily could have added on and will be adding on this next year. We'll be adding on the reject and then the handoff and then the toss back. So you can just play 3, just start with 3 players on
Yeah.
using only half of the floor, throw it in there. We would build up to 5-on-5 and require them to have. So we would just run a possession, and you had to have a post touch or you had to run a split cut, one of the options, in order for that point to count. So that I've a lot of times coaches struggle and get frustrated because they'll run a possession of something after they just practiced in the 3-on-3 and nobody ever does it. We never get a post cut touch or whatever. So we put the restraint on of you can't shoot until this, or the incentive of you get double points if you get a post touch and then
Yeah.
get something out of this. So that's practically how it worked for us as far as like implementing it. And then we saw it more in games, and it was something that became a real important part because we're always thinking about how can we. It is very difficult to generate the paint touches that we all know are needed to have effective offense if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to generate those exclusively from drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick,
Yeah.
especially when you're playing better or elite defensive teams. And if you can throw it in there, and then the worry is, again, I don't have a post player that can score out of that. It's not to score. It's just simply to get us a paint touch that will, what things that you mentioned earlier, turn the defense around, get somebody looking the wrong way, give us an opportunity to set a screen and create a small advantage on the perimeter that we can pass to. It's just an easy way to generate a paint touch that will then get you where you want to go, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think we may have some viewers who are looking for a way to involve that player number 5 in their offense a little bit better, a little bit more often to sort of. I know I have conversations with coaches a lot who's like, yeah, I just don't really get much out of our post, like in our dribble drive stuff, or they feel lost and neglected, like they're just all the time just running opposite, get opposite, instead of sort of feeling like a cog in the offense. I think when you watch like a team that has a unique player, or a team that has like the Miami Heat use PJ Tucker in there a lot, who's not a big guy, like a tall guy, like he's moderately height for NBA standards, but
Mm.
a unique player that can kind of find a role in there as a facilitator. This may be an answer for how do I get this player who is pretty good player, but like they're just not finding the ball enough in our motion or our drive and kick game, or continuity or whatever. Like this, let's involve them and make them the hub of the offense. Like when they have the ball, they're the trigger man. The action that's going on off the ball is they're the quarterback to that route combination of reject, slip, whatever, right? Like, so so that might be another way or reason for you to take a little deeper dive into post splits is like, yeah, I got this player who's just not getting enough touches, or not involved in our offense, and he or she's unhappy, or he or she's not, we're just almost playing with 4 players, like, so.
Mhm.
That's an option as well, or a rationale as well. It's like involve that player and make them the quarterback of the offense briefly, quickly.
If you're watching this and you say, well, we don't play 4 out, 1 in, or ever throw somebody down in there in the post, this is actually part 1 of part 2, maybe part 3, but at least part 2. We're going to talk a little bit more next week about this and split cut actions that you can do from other places on the floor. So next Friday, be sure to be ready for that and look out for that. We'll be sure to post that on social media. We've got some other things planned for the summer months that we're really excited about. So be on the lookout for those, and we'll be posting that on our social media accounts. If you're not already following Randy or I, be sure to check those out, both of those out. You can find him at Radius Athletics, and you can find me at Tony W. Miller. Really appreciate all those of you who joined us this week. If you missed any part of the live show, you can go back and watch or listen. Visit Radius Athletics on YouTube to see the full interviews, or you can go to any podcast platform and search Hoops Forum, and there you'll find the audio version of the show. Appreciate Randy and all he did helping me put together the slides for this week. Again, if you didn't watch the episode, I'd strongly encourage you to go back and do that. And we are more than happy to. We'll probably be turning this over the next couple of months, one of those summer plans, turning this into some blog posts that you can go back and download those. And we can also share some of those with you on Fast Draw if you have that. I'm Tony Miller. He's Randy Sherman. This is Hoops Forum. We'll talk to you again next week.